Welcome back, everybody. We are hot into this pick and ban phase already, and I mean, St. Clair, game number one, executed beautifully on their mid to late game comp. Bay State trying to get one back in this series, and we will see a slight change in bans here. We are going to see the Darius banned out this time for Bay State.
Honestly, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and they will have blue side or red side this time, so they will end up picking, or sorry, blue side this time. So they will end up picking Jinx here, and I mean, it is the priority pick for a lot of teams. We have seen it first pick basically every single game so far in the semifinals and the finals. So definitely a very, very strong pick in the meta right now. And I mean, if this Jinx get picked up, I wouldn't. It is going to be a change over to the Lee Sin. So a staple, high level jungler. Not too surprised to see it, but it does mean this Jinx Lulu is available yet again for St. Clair.
Yeah, and they're definitely going to pick it up because, as you just said, Jinx is at the top of the meta. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a Jinx main, but
it's true.
It's true. With everything that happened with Lethal Tempo, it's insane. Basically, the way they put it earlier to a friend is that she can get the attack range. Yeah, the attack range of her rocket on her minigun now. That's how insane it is.
Crazy. I thought it was. I didn't know it was that big. That's pretty crazy.
It's like just on the brim of it, and that if that's for the minigun, imagine how far the rocket launcher goes, right?
Yeah. It's a crazy concept to think about. Lethal Tempo's completely changed the game, to say the least, in the preseason, and we are going to see Xayah locked in. Actually, Xayah Nautilus no Recon will be picked up here for Bay State, and a hard engage here. Again, we are going to see it is similar to what Jin. Blitzcrank want to do in the early game. Get that engaged onto Lulu or Jinx and just kind of go really, really hard on that early game.
And it does look like St. Clair is going to pick up the Viego before they ban it, just like how they did last game, where Bay State did use Viego as their fourth ban during the second phase.
Yeah, we did see St. Clair ban out pick Darius here, so the fact that it's banned out does mean you are able to go over, but it does mean a lot of flexibility now in the top lane.
Yeah, and they are going to ban out the LeBlanc, which I completely understand. That LeBlanc played really well.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the kind of LeBlanc player that I want to be.
And it's crazy too, right? Because that LeBlanc was only on, I think, 2 kills. So the fact that she's dealing that much damage in those fights is pretty insane. And we are going to see the Vex ban out of Bay State. And, I mean, we are going to see complete change in the mid laners here. Both of them are getting banned out early on here. We're going to see St. Clair maybe look towards another mid lane ban. Wouldn't be too surprised about that one. I think definitely, obviously, the top lane was a huge difference maker in that first game. But I still think Serenok did really, really well despite not showing it so much on the stat line.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not surprised by the Vex ban. The Xerath ban, that one I'm kind of curious of. Do you know if Bay State plays Xerath?
I don't really know. I mean, I'm kind of surprised to see it at all, just because can be very, very easily countered. But to be fair, I think they do have first pick on this side, or sorry, they have last pick for St. Clair, so you can save that and just blind pick your mid, and then you play, counter for top or counter for. You get a counter in one of these solo lanes, which is very important for them.
Yeah.
So looks like Aatrox is going to be the last ban. Not too surprised there. You're talking earlier about how good Ricky's Aatrox is. So gotta watch out for that. And I mean, I really think I was going to say if Bay State doesn't ban out Aatrox, I wouldn't have been surprised to see St. Clair just blind pick that and then give counter pick to Zephyr.
Of course. One thing that I am actually hoping for this game is that we get to see Lethality Xayah. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't. I've seen Lethality for a couple of different ADCs, and it is scary.
So basically what you do is you max your Q instead of your W. Or so you max your Q instead of your E. You go full Lethality and you bring Ares, so then your Q can literally one-shot someone.
It's an interesting way to play, and if you're going lethality, helps too with this kind of early game that they want to go towards, right? Like if you find a Nautilus hook onto the Lulu or Jinx, if you have a lot of lethality built up in the early game, you can just one shot them through the Lulu wall, through the Lulu shielding as well.
Yeah,
so
that's why I feel like they brought it out.
Yeah, and it looks like Syndra will be picked here for St. Clair. Blind pick. Mid laner is going to be picked up, and Camille will be picked up as well. And Camille did just get nerfed in this recent patch. Not too heavily, but got reduced healing on her W, as well as increased cooldown on her E. So a lot of that early game power that she had is kind of taken away, because a lot of people like to play it blind because you can play pretty safe in the early game, and then moving on to the late game, obviously one of the strongest characters in the game with true damage. But the problem with her now is that this E is on a really, really long cooldown, and typically you want to bring Ignite TP into the lane, so it isn't going to be an easy matchup. But Zoe looks like will be the answer here into the Syndra, and it's not a bad pick, but I think the fact that they blind pick Syndra and you didn't really have a good answer for it is actually pretty good for St. Clair.
Yeah, the Syndra pick is definitely a good one because she does have that
Ooh.
pressure and that engage, which is really, really nice in the spot that they're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they didn't pick the Syndra there, they could have gotten a like just a random pick mid. And I honestly feel like Syndra does have a good way to fight against Zoe, but we're so close. Just press lock in. It's
And
fine.
this is
We do get the Jax.
And this is so good, right? Because Jax is a really hard counter to Camille. Camille struggles so much against Jax as the game goes on, and even late game when Camille is supposed to be very, very strong. The fact that Jax has his cooldowns, has his Emax is so good for him because Camille, that true damage isn't going to mean anything if your E is activated, right?
For sure.
I think St. Clair, a really, really solid draft yet again. I really like what they have to do, but the one thing that Bay State has that St. Clair does not is incredible pick potential because you have the long range Zoe sleep, you have the Nautilus lockdown, you have even the Xayah lockdown. So really, really good pick potential here for the side of Bay State. That is what they have going for them. But again, if we get to this late game, I definitely think St. Clair are going to be heavily favored.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Syndra late game, I don't even want to talk about it. It's just too strong. And I think you can agree with me.
Oh yeah, we've seen what a set fed Syndra can do, right? When you get those Magi stacks going, you get a Rabadons. No matter who you're hitting, even if it's Hank, you're one-shotting them from full
For
HP.
sure.
So the couple of times we have seen Zephyrat on the Syndra, he's looked incredible on it. Hasn't really had a bad game on it so far. And with St. Clair being 1-0 up in this series, that is so huge. And I think for me, the huge thing is, too, the fact that they get this Jinx Lulu back. Because Barlow didn't exactly pop off in that game, but I definitely think he was a very, very good facilitator. And Fresh on this Lulu was such a huge difference maker in that first game.
For sure. The Lulu and the Jinx still had almost, just a little bit less pressure than the Gnar that game. And I feel like that's what really got them the win there. The Darius and the jungle did really well, but honestly, if you didn't have the Jinx for the back or in the back line, it wouldn't have gone as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I really, really like this. It's going to be an interesting mid matchup. Obviously, the fact that you have Syndra and Zoe is really two similar play styles, but two different ways you want to execute it, right? Is you want to try and find these long range E's for both sides, both the stun and the sleep. But Zoe obviously has just that one-shot potential, whereas you have the Syndra who can stun multiple of a group of people. So your pick potential on one person isn't as big, but if you can land a multi-person stun, a huge difference maker, especially in those late-game fights.
This is definitely going to be an interesting game. Honestly, I'm not sure how to feel about the Lee Sin and the Viego matchup. It's definitely going to be something interesting because I feel like the second that they go in, the second that Lee Sin goes in, Viego's going to struggle a little bit, but able to get a stun off right away.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, on top of the fact that there's so much pick potential between the Zoe and the Nautilus, you have Lee Sin as well. So a really good sleep can mean a free insect for Lee Sin and can knock him back into your team. So I think that is going to be a lot of what Bay State wants to do, is trying to find picks early game. And I think they were pretty successful in that in the first game. You had the split strike roaming around, found kills in the top lane on the dive, found kills in mid lane with a couple nice picks. But in the end, it was really just this mid lane jungle matchup for St. Clair that made the difference. And I'm looking again, the Nautilus most likely going to be roaming. You don't really have a lot of kill threat with Jinx Lulu early on in the game. So I think this Nautilus is going to try and roam, trying to find some kind of early game pick potential with the Zoe combination. And if that could come through, I think St. Clair really going to struggle in the early game. But again, if they can make it through that early game and go to that mid game, late game, I think that their team fight is just going to be that much better, and they can definitely take advantage of it.
If this Xayah does actually go lethality, I'm extremely curious to how this Jinx and the Lulu are going to fight against it. Barlow and Fresh are really good at playing bot together, and they have such a good synergy. But honestly, lethality Xayah just has so much impact that it's going to be insane.
Yeah, for sure. And it does so much damage, especially when you go that in the early game, when you hit that one item power spike. It is so strong. And Nautilus, with so much CC available, can just lock him down so I can get a free root. And that's really going to be a difficult thing to handle if you're St. Clair, despite the fact that you are drafting the Lulu. So it is really going to be a big difference maker here. Can St. Clair survive the early game and get to that mid game again? If they can, I definitely think they have this in the bag. But Jax for Ricky is so massive, right? Last time we saw him, he definitely struggled a lot. It was into Dr. Mundo, which is a completely different matchup altogether. Into the Camille, I think he'll have a lot more success, but we'll see if he can get that early game advantage going. I think it'll bode really well for St. Clair.
I feel like their goal this game is to kind of do what I was assuming last game, where they just waited out as long as possible to hopefully get that late game strat in. As long as they sit back and they farm their gold and hopefully not let any of the enemies get ahead, I feel like it'll be perfect for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I really think that in this top lane, going to make a huge difference now this game plays out. But the jungle, too, we are going to see a Viego for Viego. We've seen his Viego many times throughout the season, and he's
Hmm.
looked good on all of them. Viego was slightly nerfed a couple patches ago, but still pretty much the same. It really is going to be a difference maker, right? Because if you can get ahead on this Viego in the early game, Lee Sin going to lose a lot of his power because a lot of his power is going to be up to about level 6 to that level 9 mark, where his Q is
Hmm.
max. That's where he's going to be the strongest. Once you get past that mark, he does reduce quite a bit in his power and his agency in the game. So if you
Yeah.
can get to that mark, if you can get ahead of him in that regard, later on in the game, Diego way more powerful in that regard. And I mean, right now, I do like St. Clair's draft a lot, but like I said, if Bay State play to their win condition, if they can play to
Hmm.
that pick potential, that is where they can find an advantage in the early game, and they can try and push it towards a mid game win.
Yeah. We're definitely in for another interesting game. It can really go either way, honestly, with however the ending goes. But it'll definitely be something really different. Plus, I'm do you know these are most of their comfort picks again, right?
Yeah, it is a lot of
So,
what they've played
yeah.
all these champions before. I mean, I think for them, we just saw the Jinx Lulu in the last game. It looked pretty good.
Mhm.
Syndra, Zephyr's played it multiple times, and Ricky on the Jax obviously is Ricky on the Jax. So I think
Yeah.
Ehug has proven himself in Viego. So everything that St. Clair's playing, everything they've been comfortable on throughout the season, and it's so good, right? When you have that flexibility, like I said before the series even started, you have so
Mhm.
many picks that you've been successful on that you can't ban out St. Clair. You can't just go
No, you
and you can't
can't.
just say, okay, they were really successful on this, they weren't so successful on this. And I think they kind of struggled with that earlier on in the season. That was
Mhm.
something they were working on, but later on into the playoffs, it's just been they've been pulling out these crazy picks, specifically Zephyr. Like the fact that he's playing all these new champions and is successful on
Mhm.
all of them is so massive because you can't ban out his champ pool, and he's become such a
No.
problem. And the fact that he's able to get on this Syndra is so big.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of growth that I've seen from St. Clair. Sometimes like me and Fresh would play some games just by ourselves, like some spellbook or even some norms. And like I can tell that like he's grown quite a bit
Yeah.
because on this team he only plays support, but he's playing jungle. He's learning every role possible so that then he can try and help out his teammates as much as possible. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things to know.
Yeah. Especially as a support because like the way that support meta has changed so much rather than, years ago it was just kind of, sit with your ADC, they farm up,
Mhm.
you get to that late game and that's when you're, just making sure your whole job is making sure your other players don't die. Yes, it
Yeah.
is kind of enchanter meta and they are pretty strong, but you are expected to roam, you are expected to be able to get counter vision, like you're expected to do a lot more as a support than you were
Mhm.
before. So the fact that Fresh able to do that, able to match the roams of his counterpart on the other side of the rift is so big. And Barlow stepping up too is so massive for him because we did talk about he had some struggles in the regular season, but
Mhm.
this playoffs he's looked like a completely different player. He's been playing these late game scaling ADCs and looking really good on them, which wasn't something he could do in the regular season.
Yeah, it's definitely like as you're playing on a team, you kind of learn what suits you best because as a team, like you go through different scrims, you try so many different team comps that could work, could not work. It all just depends or how you play them, right? And I feel like maybe that's what they did throughout this entire time while they were scrimming, and it definitely did work out for everybody. But we are gonna go straight into the game here. All of Bay State are going to go bot again, looking like they're going to try and invade. While on the St. Clair side, it looks like they're just going to do a 5 point start to try and keep all the vision possible that they can to avoid the invade.
Yeah, and we saw last game they tried to do this in the top lane, didn't end up working out, so they're gonna try it in the bot lane this time. They're gonna come through the bottom bush, and Fresh gonna have to be careful here. Does have flash exhaust available, so if he does get spotted out, he will have it there. Will be aware. He's gonna walk. Oh, flash gonna be matched there. So it will end up being a flash for a flash there. They do get something out of it, but yeah, just really good responsiveness there by Fresh.
Hmm.
Has to flash out of that. And Hex Flash available for Brainy, so a small advantage there in the bot lane that they might look to exploit here early, but no kills
Yeah.
go over, which is the big thing.
One thing that I will expect because of that early flash, maybe the Lee Sin is going to start, as you can actually see, he is going to go start blue. So maybe he might rotate down to bot early, so that means we might have a spicy fight early to see.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if that's where they go with. And obviously, if you look in the top lane right now, actually, Camille with the Ignite TP and Jax, Ricky this time, not opting to go with the Ignite, going with the Teleport Flash. So these 1v1 fights early might not go his way. He does have the Corrupting Pot that he did end up picking up, whereas it is just the 3 pots in the long sword for the Camille. So I'm not expecting too much to happen in the early game in top lane.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think both sides just respect the fact that it is scaling.
For
Like, it is
sure.
Jax and Camille, so you're not really getting a lot done early on. Ricky looks like he wants to go for the E. Pops that stone plate, but he's going to engage here in the bot lane. Hook going to land on Barlow here. We'll get a lot of damage down early. We'll trade back a little bit onto Brainy here, but again, nothing too major here. And I expect a lot of poke to come out from both these lanes, but I don't expect any actual hard engages to come through until those junglers start roaming.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely looks like there's been some battles in the
Ooh.
mid lane as Zoe lands her E. And it looks like everything's good up there. But now we see the Ricky going in on the Camille, trying to get as much of those autos as possible to try and keep her off the wave. And everybody's playing it decently well. Jinx gets out of here free without taking a Nautilus hook to the face, which is always nice, being an ADC main.
Ooh,
Ricky's
actually
gonna
going to
look
find
to
the
go
stun
in
on Bench.
here.
That's massive. No flash, but doesn't go for the last auto. So we'll end up with, I definitely thought Ricky was going to go in there to find that last auto, but really good patience. I think he would have been slightly out of range there. Wasn't able to find it. But regardless, I think an advantage right now, obviously, for Ricky in the top lane. This is what he was doing last game to the Mundo. But the difference between Mundo and Camille is that Mundo is going to innately heal up a lot more, has a lot more survivability, whereas this Camille not going to have nearly as much. Has the grasp for a little bit, but it's not as much as a Mundo would have.
For sure. And it does look like the Xayah isn't going to go lethality. And you can tell just because of her runes. Because for whatever reason, if you go lethality Xayah, you bring Airy.
I think it's normally just because of the poke damage. I mean, obviously it is kind of your whole goal is right to poke him out in the bot lane.
Yeah.
But I mean, lethal tempo I think is just so strong right now.
Yeah.
You can't not take it on an ADC.
True.
Just because it's like the quintessential rune for every ADC to take.
We do see Ricky going in to try and get more damage on the Camille. But just backing out and taking a free back right here to try and get some items. If Camille, goes in on the Camille and uses his empowered auto to get some more damage in. And it looks like he might try and dive here.
Hug
He's
is
definitely
also
looking
up
for
here.
it.
So this, he's going to find the stun first blood. Going to come through for Ricky. Going to try and get out of there. Ignite going to be down. He will survive though. Ricky
Very nice.
finds first blood on the top laner there and will be able to make it out of there alive. And that is so massive because last game we talked about Nara getting ahead of Ricky made such a huge difference. But now in this game, it is Ricky getting ahead of this Camille. And he does have TP. He will TP back into this lane to match it. And Ehug going to be here as well. So now that Camille doesn't have any summoners up, Ricky just going to try and bait her in. If they can find a second kill, that will be so massive for them because Ricky has a stun available. Going to go for the E. Going to find the E actually in the response. Nice flash there. Going to get ahead of Bedge. Will find the kill here in just a second. Going to go for the auto as well. Bedge no escape. Ricky going to find that kill. 2-0 for Jax early on in this game. That is disaster for the side of Bay State because Camille with no TP can't get back to this massive wave stacked up, and Ricky on a fed Jax is the scariest thing you could possibly see on the Rift.
For sure. We were definitely expecting to see some kind of like fight up in the top lane because we do know how well Ricky does play Jax. It looks like Zoe's going to try and get in here and lands the bubble, gets her Q ready, and ends up killing Zephyros.
Yeah, Zephyros just a step too far ahead here. You're going to try and go for the response here. Has flash available, not going to go for it. So Serenok finding an answer back here with a solo kill onto Syndra there. So at least some respite here for the side of Bay State. But again, this Ricky 2-0 now. Has Vamp Scepter and 2 daggers. He's going to be light years ahead of this Camille for the rest of this laning phase, essentially. And now, I mean, yes, you do have an advantage here in the mid lane, Serenok finding that kill, but the top lane is just going to be such a problem. You're going to have to send your jungle there a lot more.
For sure. And it looks like the Nautilus is just trying to get some wards around River to maybe try and do drag early. Zephyros going to try and stop the Zoe from backing real quick to try and buy some time for himself. And everything else seems to be going well. But back to talking about Ricky, he has such an impact with Jax that it kind of scares me.
Well, it's dead. You're scared. Imagine playing on the Rift with him being 2-0 right now. That's even scarier. And
Exactly.
I mean, for Bedge right here, like he was ahead in that last game, but he has to respect the fact that Ricky is now going to be significantly ahead of him in this lane, and he can go for those 1v1 fights, and he can win those. So I think Ricky had a rough game on his Jackson the last time, but this time looking light years different and really has a lot more confidence. And we're going to see actually the side of Bay State going for this early dragon, and with the reset coming through for Ehug there, won't be able to contest. So starting off early in this one, they're going to flip the script, and Bay State will claim the first dragon of this game.
Yeah, it's definitely is going to be a weird game going on. As you just said, they do get the drag for free due to all the vision that the Nautilus set up early. Jinx and Lulu are looking pretty pushed in, but luckily they are even in CS. This is definitely a strange game.
Well, this is definitely a game where your top laner is significantly ahead. You have the scaling Jax, who's going to be very, very strong. So the other lanes really just have to say, okay, we're just going to wait, go get to that mid-game point where Jackson start roaming around, and he's going to make a huge difference in fights. And as long as Jinx stays alive, if it does end up being a lethality Zaya, it's going to be, ooh, going to miss the sleep actually. Zephyr not going to land a Q either though. Trey going to come back. Oh, Q going to land for Serenok, going to go for the R. Not going to be enough damage though. Healing up with the pots there, but Serenok doing so much damage to Zephyr right now. Has to respect it. Still being zoned off this wave. Will be forced to back here in just a second.
That's the one thing that's always crazy about Zoe. You can see what she has. She only has a Dark Seal with 2 stacks, Corrupting Pots, and Boots. And she was doing that much damage to him.
Yeah, it is a lot of those summoners. Ooh, Zephyr not going to get tagged up by the Q. Will barely survive there. Yug went for gank in top lane, was not successful on it though, so will be forced to back off. But Herald being up soon could be something both teams are looking at. But Zoe roaming, this Ehug has to be careful on this Viego that he doesn't overstep.
This game is definitely going to be hard to play against the Zoe
Oh,
specifically.
no,
And it looks like Ricky's gonna get collapsed on by everybody. We'll see if he pulls through and the Lee Sin gets, or actually the Zoe gets the shutdown with her W and auto attack.
Yeah, and that's just unfortunately not expecting the Zoe to be there, expecting her to be on that reset after the kill. But
For sure.
Serenok, with a lot of activity here in the early game, has picked up 2 kills for himself and find an advantage here in mid. And I mean, last game it was definitely Zephyr outclassing Serenok, but this game Serenok with the solo kill already, as well as kill there in the top lane, is showing off that he can be just as strong as Zephyr can.
This game is something. I honestly thought that Ricky might have been able to get out in time, but because of I realized, hey, he has Camille ulti.
Yeah.
Can you explain what
can't
Camille ulti does?
can't
It's like you
escape
can't
that.
leave.
You put a nice little cage around them, and there's nowhere they can run to. You can't move out of it. So it is kind of just a free kill for Serenok there. Unfortunately, Ricky, with the commit, wasn't able to take advantage of it. And looks like actually going to open a gate here on Bedge. Bedge with no mana is going to be forced to back off here. No reset coming through either, but they are going to be getting a Herald here. So, actually, never mind. Sorry, they already got the Herald. So, Lee Sin finding that one. Objectives going the way of Bay State this time. Whereas last game, it was St. Clair finding them in the early game.
The one thing is that I honestly expected more of a little bit more fights to happen in bot lane. It looks like everything is just pretty calm down there. Both are farming. They are decent enough with the farm, like as in being even. No one's really that much ahead of anybody else, other than mid. But even mid's not that different.
Ooh, Drowsy gonna land. The ult gonna be popped here on Serenok. Serenok gonna go back in for it. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Bedge gonna go for an engage on a Ricky here. Gonna have some help from his jungler, so Ricky gonna try and 1v2 here. No mana for that, but it's not gonna matter. That's so much damage from Lee Sin. We'll find Ricky there in the mid lane. Nobody going down quite yet, but a lot of activity in this top lane. Zephyr, ooh, the sleep is gonna land. Serenok gonna have to pause. No Q available just yet. Will he dodge away from it? No. Will kill gonna come through anyway. Yug trying to stop what's happening here in the top lane, but again, just St. Clair getting taken advantage of over this map, and so much activity in the mid lane. 2 solo kills. They will end up trading. I didn't even see that. So in the end, shutdown will go over to Zephyr. Sorry, he didn't pick up the trade kill there. Who killed Zoe?
Oh my god.
Oh!
Barlow sniped Zoe with the Jinx ulti.
I didn't even see that.
We completely missed it.
I was so confused. I look at Cinder's stat line. I'm like, oh, they didn't trade. So
I was looking at the scoreboard and I was like,
That's-
oh, Jinx got a kill. That's nice. And I was like, wait, Zoe's dead. Hold on.
and that's
I know what
big
happened.
because it's a big shutdown, right?
Yeah,
the fact
for
that this
sure.
ball lane has been so static for the entire game. The fact that Barlow can pick up an advantage out of lane is huge. Hook going to come through. Fresh going to be found here. Rooted up for a second, but don't want to go for an engage here just yet. Brain going to be chipped down quite a bit. No junglers around. W going to land slow on Jurassic, but they don't want to commit to it just yet.
One thing that I'm surprised by is that the Nautilus and the Blitzcrank from last game, they both brought Glacial. I haven't really seen that.
A lot of supports, especially tank supports, have been taking Glacial just because it procs up your abilities as well, right? So the fact that you can land a hook, get the slow on 2 people just like this. Fresh going to be ignited here, going to be taken out. No ult going to come through, but TP going to be followed as well. Jack's going to show up here in the bot lane. Ricky, can he find anything? Ia going to be joining here as well in just a second. Jurassic going to live. TP going to be followed here. Camille going to try and find this one. Ia going to be here as well. Everyone down in the bot lane. Going to be a 5v5 fight here. Ult going to come through onto Ricky. Will be dead here in just a second, trying to get up, but Serenok going to claim that kill. Q to be found on Barlow as well. Will he go for the engage? Yes, he will. Slow going to come down. He will survive here. Polymorph going to come through as well. No mana for a lot of these members. Fresh going to be taken down here in just a second. Jurassic going to find him. That's going to be Zephyr coming through the fight, but not going to be able to find any kills back. A reset going to come through. Going to have the Zaya as well, going for the Q damage. You're not going to want to commit. Q going to land on Barlow. That's so much damage. Flash picked up here. Flash again. Serenok going to find another kill in this fight. Serenok 5-1-1 all over St. Clair right now. They have no answer for this Zoe, and now another fight win for the side of Bay State. St. Clair just trying to find an answer.
This Zoe is incredible.
It's really been the difference making these fights. Oh, Serenok gonna get the
Wow.
sleep though. We'll pause it for a second. Ia taking so much damage there, won't be able to go for a fight. So in the end, it will be 4 for 2. And they will go for the dragon here, but St. Clair on a reset, all gonna come through on this rocket, gonna try and find someone in the pit, but no, not gonna be able to claim it. They will get this dragon. Engage here in the top lane. Gonna come through onto Ricky. Bedge will be able to disengage here. Flash gonna come through anyway. Ricky gonna try and find the auto, but no, the heal gonna be enough. Ricky gonna live in the top lane too. Both top laners with 0 HP gonna be able to survive here. Smite gonna come through, will be able to live, but so much fighting going on early in this game. It is such a big change from what happened last game.
Yeah, this is definitely almost the exact opposite of what was going on. Where at first we went up to I think around like 9 minutes without a first kill. Where here we are with 12 already across the board.
Oh, that's going to be a root here. Drowsy going to follow as well. Serenok just going to walk up, throw a Q in. Not going to kill him though. Didn't calculate the damage, and Zephrot going to limp away with 1 HP there. A little bit sloppy there.
Those are always the best moments.
Yeah, for sure. Q gonna land. Herald down here as well. We'll get the charge in here on bot lane turret for free. Will they opt to go for a dive? No, they will not. So we'll just be a couple plates over for the side of Bay State. Sleep gonna somehow find him in that, but won't go for the engage. And Serenok, these sleeps are unbelievable.
They are. It's like this was the hidden main that he had. His pocket pick.
The fact that, I mean, I said, Zoe not exactly counterpick the Syndra, but it doesn't matter when you're counterpicking, because if you're all over the map, you're finding sleeps everywhere. It doesn't matter what the other person's picking in lane. You're finding kills elsewhere. So 5-1-1. Luden's already here. 13 minutes built up for the Zoe. 6 stacks as well. They need to shut the Zoe down sometime soon, because the further this goes on in the mid game, the more damage Zoe's going to be doing, the more pick potential they have, and they don't really have a lot of tanky stats built up yet. You see the Viego with Sunder, and you have Jax with Bork. Like, they're not innately tanky, so if Zoe finds a sleep, they're pretty much dead. There's going to be engage here. Sleep not going to find anyone. Stun not going to find him as well. Going to try for an engage here, but will be peppered down by that Q, and they're not going to go for it. So a little bit of fighting here in bot lane. Still 4 people apiece.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to try and get the turret real quick while Zoe lands another sleep on the Syndra. And doesn't bother to try and use the Q for the extra damage or to get to pick up another kill. Ehug waiting around in his invisibility, waiting for an engage, but wasn't able to get a nice one.
Both teams wanting that blue buff so bad. Barlow taking so much damage from that Serenok Q. All going to come through as well. Trying to disengage from the rest of the team there. Trying to get a flash forward. Not going to find a sleep on anybody just yet, though. And it will be a disengage here from St. Clair. And Serenok, these Qs are just doing so much damage to St. Clair right now. They can't face check anything in the jungle, because you don't even need to land a sleep for him to kill you.
There's definitely like a lot of different things that are going on the map. And you can tell that St. Clair desperately wanted to get into that fight. Ricky's just going to take an auto and then walk away. Maybe try and go back to the waves in order to push it a little bit more before he takes a free back. But back to that fight around blue buff, it looks like both teams wanted to go in so bad, but it's just like, you know that the Zoe's there, so they couldn't.
Yeah, and it really is just about the Zoe, right? Like, you're playing around these sleeps. If somehow she can land a really good sleep on someone on the side of St. Clair, you saw the sleep landed on Zephyr out there. They had to Lulu ult him just to keep him alive, because if that Q comes through, they could be dead. But this is going to be engaged here by this Herald. It will be stolen away, actually, by Bay State. They will find him, bringing down quite low. Ult not going to find him. Eug Lulu'd up here just a second, trying to find his kill. We'll get the reset coming through. Dragon Kim going to be engaged on. Nice Q going to land, but Eug going to be taking so much damage. Ult going to come through. It's not going to matter. They're going to clean up the rest of this fight. Zephrot going to have to flash out. That's going to be another Q, and Serenok finding another kill. 6, 1, and 3 on the Zoe. We talked about the pick potential from Bay State in this comp, and Serenok finding it full force. Ooh, can she escape? No. Gonna be caught out here. Stun gonna find him though. Zephrot able to escape here for a moment. Can Dragon land the Q? Gonna land it. That's gonna be another kill over. So in the end, it will be a 3-4-0. Or 3-for-1, sorry.
What do you think is gonna happen in the next 5 minutes?
I think the problem is now going to be you have your bot lane turret, and you have all 3 outers down, and you can't ward up your jungle. TP going to come through actually from this Camille. Going to try and lock up Barlow here. We'll be getting the ult down. Viego going to be here to answer as well. They're going to go for this fight, but Barlow going to be executed here in just a second. Going to flash away from it. Someone stays alive. The heal going to come through, but will end up dying in the end. Going to try and go in here. Drowsy going to find him. That's going to be another kill over Ricky, trying to find an answer here, but he'll be taken down by 4 members of Bay State, and St. Clair just piling up the losses here. And I was going to say, you can't. Oh, double kill for Serenok. Not even a Q needed. Just the E going to take out Fresh there. 8, 1, and 4, 10 stacks on this Dark Seal. Serenok just smurfing all over St. Clair in this game. 8K gold difference just 16 minutes in.
That is incredible, but you gotta hand it to the Zoe. He played extremely well.
Look at that gold difference on Zoe right now. That is ridiculous.
Wow.
Almost doubling what Zephrod has. And we talked about their plan in this game, right? You go in, you have Elisa and Zoe and Nautilus. You're looking for this really early pick potential for the Zoe, trying to find stuff in the side lane. And, you know, she found that solo kill in mid, roamed the top, found Ricky, got that shutdown on him, and then roamed the bot, found a couple extra kills. And now, you know, it's just a snowball effect, right? Because you lose your bot turret, you lose your top turret, and now after they hit mid turret, you can't even walk in your jungle, because if Zoe finds an E over a wall, especially the fact that it's Mountain Soul, you have so many more walls to throw this E over, you can't, like, you're just dead. There's, even if a Lulu ults you, you're probably still going to die from one E. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think St. Clair are going to have to make sure their vision line is perfect around their jungle, because if you get caught out in one of these fights, it is very, very easily a turn onto one of these objectives, and they kind of just take it for free.
One thing that they could try is just to try and collapse on the Zoe whenever they get the chance.
It's so hard though, right? Because like you have to have the Jax matching the Camille and split push. You have to have somebody answering in the other lanes. And I mean, even a 3-person, like if you can get a proper engage, you can definitely get it right. But the problem is you have a Viego this game. It's not a Vi you can just press R on the back line and just go directly into Zoe, right? Because like if you had a Vi this game, I think it would make a huge difference, because you can just press the R button on Zoe. There's nowhere she can run to, and you can have someone else hop on top of her. Get a free stun for the Syndra. You can ultimate, and oh, it's gonna be a stun coming through, but not gonna be able to answer. And you just see the damage difference there, right? Like a Q landed. Oh, Sleep not gonna find Zephrod. The Q landed for Zephrod doesn't really do anything, because he has Mark Treads and a Spellbook. Zoe has 10 stacks on a Medjai's and a Luden's built up.
This game, we can see that Jinx went back with the Gale Force again, which honestly, this is the one match where I'm like, okay, this makes the most sense, because you have the Nautilus hook, you have the Xayah E, you have the Camille stun, and you have the Zoe bubble, so it's definitely a good idea to
Oh,
bring
the
that.
Sleep was landed. Oh, he's gonna barely live there, engaged by Ricky in the bot lane. But I mean, not only that, right? It is the snowball effect, because now, yes, top lane Ricky was winning early, but the problem is this Zoe is so strong. She's walking in the jungle, forcing out of your lane, and Ricky level 10 and Veg level 12. And despite the fact that Ricky got ahead early on this Jax, it doesn't mean anything, because the Zoe roaming around the map is doing so much damage.
For sure. She's just been able to keep so much pressure, almost as much pressure as the Gnar had from last game. And that is definitely something that's like really intense and really hard for them to fight against.
Yeah, if you try and go for a team fight now, I definitely think it is going to go very, very heavily in the way of Bay State. And you see even in bot lane right now, the item difference. You have a full Lord Doms built for this Xayah. She's just been able to pick up farm in the side lanes, pick up towers, get objectives. Whereas, you know, just going to be a Crown of the Shattered Queen now for the Syndra, and you're going to have a Gale Force for the Jinx. So you're just so far behind in items, and really the only hope now is somehow for Ricky to find an advantage in the side lane and push it forward, because if he can get ahead of the Camille, if he can start split pushing against her, that's going to be the difference maker in this game, because a fed late game Jax is really, really hard to deal with. Even as a fed Zoe, like if you can't one-shot this Jax, he's going to hop right on top of you with Q, and you're just going to be dead. So that really is St. Clair's hope right now in this game.
Yeah, for sure. If they ever get a team fight where the Jax is able to get his stun off on at least 2 people and just have that presence, the game is going to go the complete opposite way. It's definitely going to be interesting.
Oh, the Sleep lands, Crown is off, but a 4-man collapse here. Exhaust is available though for Serenok, so we'll pop that almost instantly. Stun gonna land though through the bush. Gonna somehow find it. They can take down Serenok here. That'd be massive. Flash gonna come through. All gonna find her as well. Gonna have to go back to under that turret. Serenok gonna be taking down 950 gold for E-Hug. That is exactly what St. Clair needed, but Fresh gonna be caught out here. Blast plane available. Will he get away? Gonna follow him though. Ult gonna come through. Shield not gonna matter. Dragon will take down, so an answer back, but I mean, and fights going all around the map, actually. Oh, so much damage from that Q. Gonna flash away from it. Ult gonna come through as well. Ricky trying to find here, but he is ignited. The healing's going down. That's gonna be a kill for Beja. Solo kill in the bot lane for this Camille, and that is not what St. Clair needed. Fight gonna go on in the jungle as well. They're gonna catch him out. Ult gonna come down on Barlow. Jurassic gonna find that one. Zephrod trying to put some damage down. Gonna find it on the backside, but Dragon gonna be here as well. A double kill over for the side of Bay State, and that is gonna be them winning that fight. And despite a good pick on the Zoe, everywhere else on the map just completely completely blown out there for Bay State.
For sure. And they are going to go for a Baron pick here because their entire team is dead. They just aced. They have little to no threat with doing Baron here. They are also keeping up on all of the drags. St. Clair is going to receive none of them. It is 21-6 with a almost 10, or it is 10K.
It's going to be over 10K
now.
in just a second. So
wow.
11.5K gold difference now. Everyone on the side of Bay State with pretty decent KDAs here. Lee Sin 5-0-11, and even the Zaya at 4-1-5. Bay State, they did not like how game 1 went, so they swapped it up here, picked up the Zoe, and it's made such a huge difference here in game number 2. And I mean, the only good thing was that they got this Magi stack to stop on the Zoe down to 2 from, I think it was like 14 or something ridiculous. So the fact that they were able to stop that one is big, but now you're going to have to fight at this because it is Soul. Barlow going to be hooked up here, will be rooted up, and he will be taken out in just a second. EDC already out of this fight. Will be kicked out. Ehug going to try and find his way out here. Brain going to be pushed on too, but Exhaust going to come through on a Ricky. Not able to pick up that kill. Dragon will find Ehug. Ricky going to go down there as well. Zephyr going to be cleaned up here, and that is just, unfortunately, all that's left in this game. Bedge going to find Fresh here. Lulu going to try and walk away, but it's not going to matter. She will follow you. She will slow you, and she will take you out here. Just 1 second. They're going to claim the Soul. They're going to claim the Ace, and they're going to claim St. Clair. This game more than likely over at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be over soon. They got Baron, I'm pretty sure, at like 22 minutes. And we're able to secure the very last Dragon, meaning that they already have, including all the armor that they already have, they're going to have even more now. And that's going to be more of a struggle when quite a few people on the St. Clair team don't do damage.
Yeah, that's the problem right now, right? It's like you have help people with some items. You see both top and jungle finally found the second item, but for this, even the top laner there that was so far behind for the side of Bay State now has 2 items as well. Doesn't even engage here in top. Wait's looking to pop, but not going to matter in that sleep. If it finds anybody, it is going to be deadly in these fights. You're going to try and go for a stun. You're going to polymorph up this Camille, trying to find his kill early. Jurassic going to be on a rampage here, though. You're trying to walk through all this fight. Double kill already for the side of Zayed. Bay State walking all over this fight. It's not going to matter. You're going to try and run away, but they will ace them yet again. A second ace in a row here for Bay State. They will claim this game. 31-6 the kills. Gold difference massive, and that is going to be an answer back from Bay State in kind. 24 minutes later, Bay State closes the series and makes it 1-1. Close the series, makes it 1-1, and it is going to be an interesting one. I love to see it, though. A really good answer for Bay State.
Yeah,
answering back what St. Clair had to do, and I mean, it really started with that mid laner.
Yeah, that early E on the Zoe definitely had an influence of how that lane ended up going. Plus, it gave, once Zoe knew that, okay, like I can land these, I can get some damage on, force him to back, or force Syndra to back, and then immediately roam bot. She used all of her like time and the waves so well that it didn't affect her at all.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the fact that she was able to do so much damage with just the boots built, didn't even have any actual magic damage items. It really comes down to those skill shots, right? Because if you don't have any magic damage items, your Qs aren't going to be doing that much damage on themselves. But if you can pile up this and you keep dodging out Syndra's Qs, you can turn that into so much more damage than you saw. Even the fact that she got that solo curl early, roamed to top, found that shutdown on Ricky, meant that they were able to get Herald. They got the mid lane turret down, and she starts roaming into the jungle, and she lands asleep on you, you're just dead. So
yeah,
that really snowballed into the rest of the map. And despite Ricky finding that early lead in the top lane, the fact that Serenok found that kill and then got the shutdown on Jax kind of just negated all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I was hoping that with that shutdown that he had got on the Zoe that he would be able to do a little bit more damage, but it didn't look like anything. He got the Sterix gauge, and then that's about it. Yeah,
it's hard too when you're behind that much. Yes, it is 950 gold. It is something back to you, but you look across the rest of the map, like Jurassic at 3 items, Serenok and Dragon at 3 items as well. Like it's just so difficult to try and fight back in these times because like you're just down so much gold at that point. And I mean, basically play their comp to perfection. We talked about their pick was based around, their comp was based around picks, right? You had to find those engages, you had to find the Zoe sleeps, you had to find the Lee Sin insects, and I mean Dragon, I think he had an okay game. The stat line was 8013. I think a lot of that was in the later parts of the game. It was really just this mid laner roaming, finding these incredible sleeps was the difference maker. And I mean, looking forward to game 3, it'll be interesting to see how these drafts go, because now that Bay State is strike back and they found that second game, St. Clair are going to have to think about what they want to draft, because you can't just leave that Zoe up. You have to try and deal with it in some kind of way.
Yeah, I'm definitely wondering what kind of pick they're going to choose against Zoe. One thing that I do see that is a good counter pick, which I necessarily don't agree with, is Silas.
I do like the Silas in it. The problem is the Silas we have seen from Sephiroth is not good. So I
Mm.
don't really think that would be in his wheelhouse. I think that's something that he was working on that wasn't really working out for him. I think
Mhm.
what I want to see is not this Viego blind pick in the jungle. I want to see them save it and maybe go back to that Vi because,
Yeah.
like I said during the cast, the Vi can lock on you with the R, and it's kind of just a free kill if you have another form of CC like the Syndra stun. So I think if you had a Vi there, it makes a huge difference because Viego a lot harder to actually land that CC. You have to get close range. You have to land that W through. You can't hit any means or anything. Vi, press the R button. It's a free CC. So I think that could be a change that Sinclair could make. But that is going to be it for this game. BSC strike back, find a game for themselves, tie up the series at one apiece. We are going to be going to game 3 here in just a second, so don't go anywhere. Stick around, grab yourself some popcorn, because it is going to be a banger of a series.